Hello, Emily. We're going to take a look at your following the sun and takeaway presentation. So let's go ahead and get the screen sharing happening and start right in with them. Now, I noticed that you had a good model here. This little one here seems to be cooperating with you. That's great. Shoot what you know. That's what I always say. And if you don't know about it, and then go and shoot it. So if you have a sort of an affection for the location, or someone is curious to you and you want to be able to kind of capture who they are, even in this case with this little guy or girl, I'm not sure which, but go for it. Now you have this midday, and I don't know if you put these in any particular order in terms of like what you're most confident in. Well, actually I do know, because in your takeaway you were saying you had the most fun with the mixed lighting, but you put that last, so that tells me something. You wanted to kind of wrap up with those. You didn't have to put these in any particular order. Now midday, of course, is where the sun is highest in the sky. And you probably discovered as you were working that the sun doesn't get as high in the sky in November and December up here. In other words, the difference between the angle of the sun for golden hour and then as it moves through the sky, the sun doesn't get as high up into the sky as it does in the summertime. In July, you have a lot more height with the sun as compared to it is now. So therefore, the shadows will be shorter, and you're going to get a different quality of those shadows as they would nowadays. So if this was a springtime course and you were doing this project in April, you would see a different quality of light connected to midday. So it's less about time of day and more about the nature of the light, really, when we're talking about this. This is really a nice opener. I think you could have gotten a little bit closer here, because this business right back in here is not as necessary as this. And what I really am interested in here is how the shadows are kind of bouncing off the ground and lighting the face right here, just kind of illuminating right here and just barely getting the eyes. This is a fantastic portrait. It's just this information back here. If we were to take it to another step, like in Photoshop, we would just edit it by cropping that out and not having it at all. Again, this is a beautiful rendering. You've got short lighting coming from the side and slightly to the back. The reflective light, which is still illuminating the face there, works out very, very well. This one as well, I think is less dramatic, right? It's more about the shape than it is about the character of the face. This is really all about the face and the expression and the texture of the fur. Here it's more just about the shape. So I think this one tells me more about, it just has more of a feeling of who this creature is, as opposed to here, although clearly we've got, snow jumbling. Here we're getting better use of the entire picture plane, where you're starting to use other shapes and so on. Now, again, this is midday, but it's cloudy. Just like today, this is December 12th, and it's totally blanketed with clouds out there right now. So all day is going to be, blue hour, basically, because we have no midday, we have no golden hour. And so again, it's not necessarily about the time of day, it's more about the quality of light. So in fact, we might qualify what we have right here as closer to blue hour light than midday. Even though it might be midday, the kind of light that we're getting is all reflective, which is more characteristic of blue hour than it would be otherwise. So golden hour, this is where I think you really nailed it on a lot of these images. I'm going to scroll through to get to one of them that I think is just like, wow, what a beautiful shot you've got right here. This is, the quality of light, the way that the elements are sort of moving throughout the space. It's just a beautiful image that says, everything about what photography is. It's not about these objects. It's about how these objects are being transformed by the light. And you're doing it in other cases as well. I think you're really at your strongest when you are looking at the entire picture plane, and that you're using the compositional qualities, and you're using the lighting qualities that you were picking up in the studio. The challenge is when you're outside, the light's constantly changing. You can't control it. When you're in the studio, you can set the light up and it's there and it's not going to move, and you can just explore it, right? When you're outside, the light's always going to change. It's the sun, you know, throughout the day, it's going to move. Other stuff is going to happen. In the studio, you've got this flat table with objects that you're positioning. Out in location, you've got the whole world where you're now discovering, and you're having to identify what you want in the photo, what's not in the photo, stuff like that, right? I mean, little things like this stuff in the background on this photo, you wouldn't have to deal with if you were in the studio, because it just wouldn't be there. It's just a blank wall back there, so it becomes negative space. Here, you're having to incorporate it into the composition because it's there. Now, I think you've done a good job incorporating it into the composition, because as you see here, diagonal, diagonal. I hope that was intentional, because it's beautiful. It's just great that you did that. And so whether you meant it or not, don't tell me you didn't mean to do it. We're just going to assume that you were really smart and did that repetition and put it together. It shows a real strength and that you're paying attention to what's going on overall. Now, your blue hour gets a little bit away from you. I actually think you either are too late or too early here on some of these blue hours. This is kind of funky and cool experiment, always up for seeing how you can work with it. But I think, you know, you're a little bit early or a little bit late, depending on whether this is nighttime or morning on this. And we could have a little bit more luminosity going on in the images, because as you can see, these are pretty dark images to see. And now we get to the ones where you're having a lot of fun with, and I can tell that you are enjoying kind of laying these things out, because these are beautiful nighttime photos. Again, it's a little bit late or a little bit early, depending on what time. We wanted a little bit more luminosity in the sky so that it was a better balance between them. But besides that, you're using composition, you're using repetition, the quality of light and the depth that you're getting is just great. The use of color and so on and so forth. It really shows some imagination in shots like this, where you're not taking a picture of what you see, but making an image of what you want us to see. This sort of, beautiful sort of orchestra of light that's happening. If painting can do this, photography can do this in terms of abstraction. And I'm really happy that you took and explored the boundaries of it. Even though this might be a little bit too late to be the balance, we would have had a little bit more daylight on there. But I really applaud that you were getting in there and experimenting with what it is that you're doing. The takeaway was really all about your learning. What's the arc of your learning? And I think, the evidence of your images, the images are just evidence of what you're talking about with the writing. And I think you've done that. The images are showing, the evolution of what it is that you're doing. It shows that you are identifying what is effective photography in relationship to what we've been doing. And your writing reflects that as well. You're talking about how you are gaining more confidence and therefore being more bold with your compositions, understand how your knowledge and experience are bringing you to a level of understanding that allows you to be creative. So you've heard me say that before, how you collect knowledge, which is like tools, right? 5 characteristics of light, aesthetics and control with camera control, how to manipulate the light to get different things. But then you experience those when you're shooting, and then you understand what you're doing, right? Then you understand a little bit more about photography, which allows you to be creative. This is the algorithm. This is the equation. If we want to have an equation, if we want to have things that can lead us to being creative, well, there you go. That's what it is. Knowledge plus experience equals understanding, which allows us to be creative. And as straightforward and linear as that sounds, there's not too much room to argue over it either. It is just what it is. And so I'm very happy to see how you progress throughout the term. I'm very pleased at how, authentic you are with what it is that you're doing, understanding that not every shoot day is going to be great, but you went in there with enthusiasm and you overcame things when they didn't go right and continued to practice and continued to shoot. I noticed how you were observing with your shooting partner, how you were watching them and helping them. That's an experience that I think you've really grown from. And I'm curious about what it is that you might be able to do with photography or even video. Whether, taking photography more in a sort of an aesthetic direction with making exhibition prints, maybe using photography in a design sense, maybe even getting into the time-based media and doing video and things, because time-based media and video is the natural extension to many of the things that we're doing now. So I would like to see you explore all of those things and help you to develop your visual voice even further. So that's it. I hope you had an enjoyable break. I hope you have an enjoyable break, some much needed time off, and we will see you in 21. All right, take care. Bye-bye now.